Warning: the following video contains strong language and mature content. It was uploaded for the intention to entertain and/or educate and does not condone ill feelings towards anyone. Viewer discretion is advised. Enjoy. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Lone Señor Theater. And today's story is going to be a very personal one because it's my story. It's the journey to right now. And for those of you that do know me, know that after I graduated from Chaffey High School in 2014, I attended the American Academy of Dramatic Arts in Los Angeles. Now, this was my dream school. This was the place I wanted to go to since the beginning of high school. And when I was accepted and actually made it in, it was very surreal, like all my friends were super pumped for me, and I really thought it was gonna lead to something amazing, and so I was able to have a place to stay out there. My cousin Tawny, hi Tawny, let me stay with her and her husband at the time, and now I was heading to a new school. I was away from my family. I was away from my friends. I was in a place I didn't really know. And I was uncomfortable and I was sad. And it really, really took a toll on me. And right before I started college, I was having really, really bad thoughts. And I almost did something really stupid and I didn't. And I chose to rise above it and to head to orientation at my college. And I went and I wanted to see if everything that I wanted was worth it. And it was all that and more because it was everything I could have dreamed of. Everybody there was so amazing, so sweet to me. We all shared the same passion, and it made it really easy for me to open up to these people. And I made lifelong friends at the academy, and I learned so much. It's probably the greatest almost 2 years of my life. Unfortunately, for those of you who are watching this who attended the academy with me and don't know why I wasn't able to graduate, the first week of the final semester of second year, I was called into the financial aid office and told that I had to pay a ridiculous amount of money if I wanted to continue going to classes. It was money I didn't have, money I wasn't going to have, and money I didn't want to ask to borrow from anybody. Call me prideful, but I just didn't want to put that burden on somebody. So I didn't know what I was going to do. But it was like fate made the decision for me because that same day when I was driving home, my 1995 Honda Accord caught fire on Melrose Avenue. Luckily, I had towels in the back because I had almost everything you could imagine inside of that car because I was going to an acting school. I had towels in the back and I was able to throw a towel in the fire and put it out. And I had to get my car towed all the way from Hollywood to Rancho Cucamonga. Reason being Rancho Cucamonga was because I eventually left my cousin's place after orientation. I felt it was better for my mental health to stay at home and just take the longer drive. And in the long run, that did help. It didn't help my car, but to be quite honest with you, I was living in Sylmar with my cousin, and it took longer to get to Hollywood from Sylmar than it did from Rancho, even though Rancho was further. Sounds like it doesn't make sense, but it's the truth. But yeah, when my car broke down and I had to stop going to school, that was rough. I couldn't afford my dream school anymore. It was like the biggest reality check anybody has ever gotten. And at the time, I was working at a place called Urban Furniture, where I started as a sign holder, eventually worked my way up to delivery driver and then assistant manager, but then was demoted when I explained to the owner that work wasn't my first priority. School was. I wanted to become a great actor, and I didn't want to become the owner of a furniture store. I mean, call me superficial, but my dream was to go to this college and graduate and become an actor, and he just didn't understand that. We never saw eye to eye, so I got demoted back down to sign holder and had to work my way up. But when I stopped going to school, I realized there was no reason to, butt heads with somebody every day if it wasn't paying for anything. So I quit. And luckily, at this time, I was talking to the greatest person on earth, my 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 angel, my Sadie. She was in Arkansas at the time, but most of the time she helped me through so much. We had such a beautiful relationship, and eventually I was able to save enough money to get her to come to California, and we could be together. And since January 13th, 2017, we've been together, and we're still together to this day. But how was I able to fly a woman from Arkansas all the way to California, you may be asking? Well, after Urban Furniture, I got a job at Wendy's. And Wendy's was okay for a little while. I mean, I learned a lot. I learned how to run a restaurant. I learned how to schedule. I learned that most people aren't very decent to people who work in customer service. That was probably the hardest thing to swallow. But I learned it, and I worked there for a little over a year. And the turning point actually was, I didn't actually drop out of the academy. I took a leave of absence, and I was planning on going back a year later, even though I knew I wasn't going to have enough money. However, working at Wendy's, they said they were going to give me a promotion, and I held them to that until a snafu happened where somebody requested to be demoted, and they said they weren't going to promote anybody who worked within the restaurant anymore. So at that point, for the first time in my life, I started acting like a shit employee. I wouldn't show up to work. I basically told them to go fuck themselves because they wouldn't fire me. So I quit. It was a job where it was a lot of false promises and a lot of, oh, too bad, just get back to work. See, I don't, anybody who knows me knows that I'm not the type of person who's just going to sit down and take something. If you're going to be disrespecting me or disrespecting people who work around me or people I care about, I'm not going to stand for that shit. I'm a nice person, but I don't appreciate people who think that just because they have a bigger title than somebody that they are above them in life and can treat them however they please. Because that's not how life works, at least not in my eyes, and at least not in anybody's eyes. That shouldn't be how it is. But anyways, to get away from my rant, after Wendy's, Sadie and I were together, but I had to find a new job, and I ended up working at a lovely place called USA Gasoline, which turned into a Shell, which then turned into a Thrifties. So I worked at a place called Thrifties Gasoline for a little over 2 years. And for the longest time, it was a decent job. I mean, I had to deal with assholes and morons, and just a quick little story. Most people, I don't say most people, about 4 times a day, I would have somebody come into the store and tell me, hey, the pump's not working. And I would go out and put the pump in and squeeze the trigger. And answer was always the same. Oh, I thought it just did it by itself. Now, for those of you watching that aren't, from a country where cars are predominant, you're okay. But people who live in America should realize that, of course, you have to pull the trigger. I mean, but I digress. I eventually had to leave the gas station because I went under new ownership and they wanted more workers with less hours, and I just couldn't afford that. So I quit that job as well. But that job was probably the most rewarding I've ever had because I was able to get a car. I was able to get a lot of things actually. I made a lot of money at that job, and I was proud of working there. Like even though it was a gas station, I felt like I had a civic duty because everybody needs gas. I mean, maybe it was a delusion, but it was that was my drive to work there every day. And the best part about the job was that I was able to write, or should I say rewrite, my very first screenplay, Black Friday. Now, for those of you who have read that, excuse me, for those of you that have read it, thank you very much. And for those of you that haven't yet, just please, if you'd like to read it, leave your email address in the comments below, and I will send you the PDF because I personally think it's hilarious, and I think any one of you will enjoy it. Yeah, I was able to write that while I was working there, and because I had a lot of free time, and I originally wrote the script when I was 14, but I decided to give it a brand new coat of paint, so to say. And I personally think it's fantastic. I think you guys would love it. So if you'd like to read it, please leave your email address in the comments below and I'll send it to you. But yeah, like I said, unfortunately, I did have to leave that job. And my father, for so long, was telling me that I need to get into warehouse. And I would always brush him off and say, I don't think I'm good enough for manual labor. I don't think I'd last too long. Well, I got a job at a wonderful warehouse that to this day is still the best job I've ever had. And the warehouse was right down my street. Is in Rancho Cucamonga was perfect, and I gained everybody's trust there. Everybody was super cool. It was a perfect schedule, and I eventually got to learn how to use a cherry picker. But then I was in a position to get hired on to the company. Now, for anybody who's watching this and works in warehouse, you know that when you get hired on, two things happen. You get a background check and you take a urine test. Now, for those of you that know me, know that I'm going to pass a background check with flying colors. I've not so much as gotten a speeding ticket in my entire life. However, the urine test was something I was incredibly worried about. Now, before any of you get scared, I don't take drugs. I don't condone drugs. I don't feel anybody should do drugs. However, this is my opinion on it. Many may differ, and that's fine, but I personally do not believe marijuana is a drug. And I have been an avid marijuana smoker for a very long time. Including the time I was at this warehouse. But when I got the news that I was going to be hired on, they told me it was a 2-month process. So I knew, okay, I have 2 months to get myself clean. So I went sober from marijuana for 10 weeks. In the process, I became an alcoholic and I started drinking nonstop. And I knew it wasn't healthy for me, but I did it. And I did it because I had a lot of pressure on me. I wanted to get this job. I wanted to, show everybody that I can do it. I can be a working man. I can kick ass and and move up in a company finally. Yeah, I was sober from marijuana for 10 weeks and I still failed the urine test. But the worst part about it was they didn't fire me. They just started having me do things that a temp employee is never supposed to do. For example, a temp employee is not supposed to train new employees on machines. A temp employee is not supposed to sign anything that a truck driver hands them, and is most definitely not allowed to cut the padlocks off the back of a truck. That's a big responsibility, and that's not supposed to be given to a temp employee. Now, I know some of you may be thinking, well, David, they just trusted you. It's not that they trusted me, it's that they knew I had no choice, because it was either do it or get fired, because we have this over your head. Eventually, the warehouse moved from Rancho to Moreno Valley. Now, I knew about this the whole time I was working there. I got the job in April of last year, 2019, and the move happened in the beginning of October. Now, for 2 weeks, for the first 2 weeks in October, we didn't move any of the product from the old warehouse to the new warehouse. We just continued business as usual. But then when we started moving things, that's when all the bad things started to happen, and I really felt like the people I admired and respected just didn't have my back. And like I said earlier, if you have people working under you, you're paying people to show up to work, you have to have a certain trust in them. You have to have a certain respect for them. And when you do things to them that is basically just like brushing them to the side or brushing their problems to the side, it's a little hurtful. So I quit that job as well. And within 2 weeks, I got a job at QVC, which, great home shopping network. It's great. Got nothing against them. Just they hire way too many people. Because for the month and a half that I worked there, for 2 of those weeks, I was sweeping for 8 to 10 hours a day. Wish I was making that up. So, as you guys can imagine, I wanted to leave that job, but before I could, I got incredibly sick. Probably the worst sickness I've had since high school. And I missed work for 2 weeks. This was the week of Christmas and New Year's 2019 to 2020. And they laid me off. It was understandable. I actually wasn't that angry at that because I wanted to quit the job anyways. And just recently, in March, I got a job at a bicycle warehouse, which I worked there for a week. It was wonderful. I loved it. The people there seemed great. And then COVID happened. And I was kind of left on my ass because I constantly have a runny nose, and I have for many, many years. I was sent home almost every day in a week until they eventually laid me off. Since then, I've been at home. I've been trying to do my part, be a responsible citizen, and not spread this shit because it's killing so many people. And I take it very seriously. And luckily, I worked enough to where I had a good amount of unemployment to last me till most likely the end of the year. And I'm okay with that. Now, I know you guys are probably thinking this is a pretty sad video. I'm not trying to make it a sad video. I'm trying to make it a more hopeful video because I want you guys to know that you'll have plans for your life. And I'm not saying that the plans aren't going to work out. They're just not going to work out the in the vision that you have it, because life is a fucking roller coaster, and things that you would never imagine to happen right in front of your eyes. The most important thing, and this is the thing that has taken me a really long time to learn, is that you need to be the hero of your own story. And the hero doesn't fall down when he takes a little bit of pressure. I've been falling down for a while, guys, but I finally found my stride and I'm getting back up. This is only the beginning of the journey, but the journey to here, it's been a roller coaster. It's had a lot of lows, but it's also had some incredible highs. And I'm grateful for everything that's happened. It may not have been the way I wanted it to be, but I'm happy. I'm happy to be sitting here making this video for you guys. I'm happy to be telling this story and hopefully teaching you guys that no matter how hard life gets, you can never let it bring you down. You always have to be above it. You always got to be one step ahead, even when it gets ahead of you. I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful for the future. I'm hopeful for everyone's future. Because although everything looks a little messed up right now, it's in our hands. And we have the power to change our lives. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I hope you guys have a great day. Rock on, but keep the peace.